Welcome to Reread. Today I'm going to go back to Marvel, Star Wars comic books, the classic series. So good. The issues I'm talking about are issues 51 and 52 of the comic series. In 51, 3PO sees a Gundark and tells Leia, "Look out, Gundark." She went, "I don't see any on the list." She went, "No." He says, "No, behind you." And these Gundarks look different than what Weston Game said. They look like anteaters with the little snouts that have the little tongues that come out. And they're trying to eat Leia and 3PO, and they dodge it and get away from them both as two Gundarks shoot their tongues at each other and get them all tied up, tangled up, and they're stuck. I didn't know this. I forgot that they had Gundarks in it. Now remember, Empire Strikes Back had already come out, and Han Solo had made that comment, "You look strong enough to tear the arms off a Gundark." And that's the best they could think about. That's why you shouldn't let the comic books decide what certain creatures look like. After it showcases Leia for a minute, it showcases Luke, who lands. Doesn't crash, he lands on a planet. He's taking a message from General Riken and trying to get off the planet with it. He attacks an AT-ST by using his lightsaber and slashing off one of its legs and blast off just in time before the big AT-AT comes to get him. This kind of just showcases everyone, really. Darth Vader, it's a really cool scene. Darth Vader he's upset with his latest admiral and tells him to go take a walk out the airlock, and he does. And he goes, one of the people, Imperials at the console goes, "Lord Vader, there seems to be a malfunctioning airlock." He went, indeed there is. He said, "Pay of no mind, I'm sure it will fix itself," Or he reports that the airlock is open. He goes, "I'm sure it's a malfunction, it will correct itself," And everyone knows that, Vader just made him, or, force commanded him, mind wiped him to go kill himself. Also, they discover that there is this big super weapon being constructed called the Tarkin. Luke, Leia, Chewbacca, and Lando secretly, he wasn't invited, but he sneaks on board the Millennium Falcon. They all go undercover as mechanics to work on the Tarkin. Now this is the infamous story that Marvel came up with the Death Star 2. That's what they were going to call it. They wanted to call this the Death Star 2, and the Empire's resurrecting of the Death Star. But Lucasfilm said, no, you can't do that story, because that was the story for Return of the Jedi. So Marvel called it first. But the Tarkin is this big behemoth, super weapon with, it looks like that little dish that's in the Death Star. It's in the center of the weapon. So it's another super weapon, which you're thinking, would they really have constructed two super weapons at the same time? Yeah. This one that's, more public, but the second Death Star, which was which was more secret and whatnot. So maybe they put this out there for the rebels to kind of look at the Tarkin as the biggest threat until they finish their Death Star. But the Tarkin looked to be pretty powerful too. He had the turbo laser of the Death Star. So it's kind of confusing. They don't say that it can take out planets, but it is. They show a Star Destroyer passing by it just to show you how huge this thing is. But that, and then at the end I should mention that a bunch of Imperials have gotten together and they're holding hands and raising them up in the secret room that they are going to kill Darth Vader. They're just going to uprise. They're starting an uprising against Darth Vader. Okay, fun. In number 52, which is the conclusion of this story, Darth Vader basically sets a trap for Luke Skywalker, who he knows is on the Tarkin. He feels his presence and sets up a trap. Unfortunately, when he's about to jump Luke, as Luke's trying to find a way to sabotage the Tarkin, the first betrayal happens. One of the lieutenants or whatever hits a airlock, opens up an airlock where Darth Vader is, and sucks him out the airlock. But Luke, thank goodness, who's in the same corridor or whatever, his bionic hand, who's got super strength, holds on tight to whatever, handle he could, and he's not sucked out. But Darth Vader is outside of the ship, kind of clawing at the door, and he commands the Force and slowly, step by step, walks back in, and then uses the Force to shut the airlock and tells the lieutenant his days are numbered. And the lieutenant's like, uh-oh. And of course, there's going to be some more betrayal as it goes on that Vader's going to be having to deal with on the Tarkin. Probably because he killed the Admiral, I guess. Now that I'm thinking about it, that may be the reason, even though I don't think they gave a reason. They're just tired of Darth Vader's tyranny and they want to put an end to it. Lando, of course, he snuck aboard on the Millennium Falcon. He ends up being a good thing because he comes and saves them at the last minute. Of course Lando does. He's the best. And then, as the Tarkin is setting its sights on to fire at the Millennium Falcon, which, by the way, again, Darth Vader gets into his TIE fighter pilot to chase after them, but his TIE fighter gets damaged. And when the Tarkin goes to fire, of course, it explodes, just like A New Hope. And they're like, "What happened?" Because they thought their goose was cooked. And I thought that they were, because I'd forgotten how it ended. I thought the Tarkin was shooting at Darth Vader. I thought that was going to be the big surprise. But it blew up, and Leia goes, "Oh, by the way, while y'all were running around, I sabotaged it. I triggered it to fire." And Lando asked the obvious question that every reader was asking, is like, "Well, what if they would have fired while we were still in the Tarkin?" She went, "I just knew we could get out in time." That's how you write yourself out of a story. But this is not over. This is not over, because in the Star Wars Insider Special Edition, Ryder Wenham wrote a short story called Vader Adrift. This is what happens to Vader after the events of issue 52, which is, again, I just kind of forgotten about this, but they mentioned the Tarkin. He mentions that, now that the Emperor's going to get the bad news about the Tarkin, he's probably going to want to redouble his efforts to get the Death Star 2 operational before the rebels find out about it. So it kind of weaves in the Tarkin as part of the mythology in the expanded universe, and makes things seem a little bit more, I don't know, real, if that's a word. Because the Marvel comic books, as fun as they are, can be kind of kooky and cartoony at times. But what Ryder Wenham does, he brings a solid base to them. I mean, like, there's a great painting where the stormtroopers are looking up and go, "Oh no, was that the Tarkin?" And there's this huge explosion in the sky, above them on the planet, while they're sitting down looking at the planet. But anyway, Vader escapes by jumping out of his X-wing to someone who comes out in space to save him. It's an old clone trooper in stormtrooper armor, I guess. Well, he's not a stormtrooper; he's been demoted to something. And he goes, you were fought in the Clone Wars. He said, "Yes, sir." He said, "With what squadron?" And it happens to be Anakin Skywalker's old squadron. So Ryder's making connection to the prequels here. And when Vader finally arrives back on the Imperial base, they don't identify the clone trooper, shoot and kill him. Vader kind of comforts him as he dies and says, "I remember you, trooper. You were good. You were a good soldier." He goes, I thought that was you, sir." Kind of reveals that he's Anakin Skywalker to the dying soldier who's been faithful. I think he jumped into the way of the laser too, because it may have been someone else trying to betray Vader. And they go, "Oh, Lord Vader, we didn't know that was you. We thought it was someone else." And Vader goes, "Yes, I'm back. I'm safe. Let me give you my thanks." And he ignites his lightsaber because he's about to slaughter them all. It's a really good story, and it brings some weight to the Marvel comic book story. It really does. I think you can find this in Vader, the Complete Compendium or whatever, like some kind of Vader magazine too. I think they reprinted it there. But in fact, that short story was built to promote the upcoming Vader magazine issue or whatever it was. Either way, it's really good. So there you have it. All right, folks. See you next time.